Okay, now always great to start off the week with some inspiration. Time now for our Power Woman segment. My guest today is Dr. Stella Bosira. She is the CEO of the Kenya Medical Association and has quite the story to tell. So welcome to Power Breakfast.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Your upbringing is quite interesting.
Yes.
Maybe we can take it back to that point of where you grew up and sort of your journey.
I grew up in the slums of Kibera, Kachekera to be specific. It's one of the villages in Kibera. Aside from that, I also spent quite a chunk of my life as a child in the streets as homeless with my siblings. And aside from that, I also happened, because of the situation then, I also happened to have been a drug addict and a drug peddler. Yeah, I was selling and smoking marijuana.
Wow.
Yes.
I mean, quite interesting to end up where you ended up.
Yes.
So what was the transition point from growing up in Kibera and, you know, using drugs to saying I want to take my life more seriously and, you know,
I think when I was expelling class 8 from the school I was in, because I was found with 700 rules of bang. And after the expulsion, well, my life kind of went down south. But a few teachers really believed in me, and a few community people really believed in me, and they thought that my life should not come to an end. As a child who had a mother who had schizophrenia, and it was really the responsibility of the community to bring me up, and because of such factors, delinquent behavior, of course, was granted. And that really changed when I was given a chance to sit for my KCPE, and I went to start and I did well. And naturally, that's the time I realized that, you know what, despite all these challenges, there's something that can actually come out of me. There's something I can be able to achieve. And I was given a chance to join State House Girls High School, and that's where I went for my high school. And it's a 4-year transition. I mean, I remember walking from Kachekera to State House on the first day of school, and I had all my luggage in a paper bag, in a green paper bag. And when I walked in, I found people from different social-economic status, of course, a bit higher than, way higher than myself. And I realized that there's another side of life. You know, when we're in the ghetto, we used to tell ourselves that if you cross the railway, if you're on the left side of the railway, then you know you're really poor. If you're on the right side of the railway, then you're actually doing well because you happen to sleep in a concrete house. And for the first time, I actually slept in a concrete house. I had a bed of my own. I was not sharing.
At State House Girls.
At State House Girls, and I had 3 meals in a day. I mean, that was a miracle. I mean, a meal that was enough where I come from. And here I am. I had people who really took care of us. I even had hot water to shower. I mean, it was pure heaven.
So were you aware of your capabilities as a young girl before now you went to State House? Did you know that there was a brighter future awaiting you, or were you kind of, you know, just getting by?
I think all of us have dreams. I remember I used to dream of an altar me living in a posh place, having my mother not being sick, the mental illness, and I had siblings who were doing well. You know that dream? And I knew one day if I took the right path, I would be able to land there. But this path had to, of course, have a lot of obstacles, and there had to be a lot of struggles in between that. But to be very honest, at one particular point, I just realized maybe I was condemned to be able to live this cycle of poverty over and over again, and perhaps just to die in it. But when I stepped into State House, I realized that, you know what, for the first time I had a card that was to determine if my life was to change or not. And it was upon me to be able to do that, because now all the struggles that I'd been exposed to, because even the peddling of the drugs was not because I wanted, even the smoking, it was because it was a means to an end. And the end having been, I was the breadwinner of my family, my mom being sick, and I had siblings to take care of. So that was to me a means to an end. And here I am in a stable, secure environment where everything that would make me go out, I had all of it being provided under one roof. So that for me was it.
Now you also suffered a tragedy at a young age. Your mother passed away.
Yeah.
What impact did that have on your journey and your life at that point in time?
You know, when I finished high school, I got a scholarship from the Rita Levi Montalcini Foundation to study medicine. I was actually supposed to leave the country for Italy. I remember making the decision and looking at my family and saying, my siblings are younger, my mom is sick, I need to be able to be here to provide leadership. I decided not to leave for Italy and instead studied medicine in Kenya.
Wow.
And to me, it was like, you know, we are almost at the end of the tunnel with my family. There's light at the end of that tunnel, and for my mom that meant so much to me, because despite her mental illness, there are days she was okay, she was on remission, and we could at least sustain a conversation. I could tell her about my dreams of wanting to become a doctor and wanting to change her life. I remember telling her one day, I'll build you a glass house, and every day I'll have someone make your nails and do your hair. She had very beautiful hair. And she'd laugh at me, you know. And then she died. She died when I was in 4th year, barely 2 years before I graduated from medical school. And it was a point in my life which was very sad, because I remember even asking God. I actually fell out with God since then. I reconciled with God later on in life, after some years. And I remember asking God, honestly speaking, after all that she's gone through, I mean, she should actually almost see, in Kiswahili we say kunitolea uchi, she should almost see that one of her children was going to remove her nakedness, and then he just decided to transition her into the other world. It was a very painful moment for me, and it actually has been until one of the lowest points ever in my life, because I almost slipped into depression, were it not for very strong friends that I had. Yes.
What was medical school like for you? You know, growing up, wasn't probably a dream of yours at the time, but here you find yourself, you know, in medical school and about to become a doctor. And from what I've heard, it's quite a tough process. It's not for the faint-hearted.
It's not for the faint. I think on average, I've slept for between 3 to 4 hours from first year to final year, and in between that, as a hustler, I was doing business. I was selling clothes, I was selling tush, and I was also selling shoes and fish. So you can imagine juggling, because I had to also still take care of my siblings and support and also grow myself. In between that, every year was different, and every year was tough. You know, in med school, the pass mark is 50%. So it's the principle of whether you save a life or you lose a life.
Right.
And even the exams, in first year, every 2 weeks there was an exam. And it's among the few courses where you have both external and internal examiners. So even if you do well, you have to finally you meet an external examiner who has to ratify that you've done well for you to move ahead. But one of the best things that made me also not find it so hard in terms of the academic part of it is that I involved myself. I was a very participatory student. I had a lot of discussion groups. I read a lot. A lot. If I was not selling fish or doing mime tush, I was in the library.
I mean, we've heard stories of people who've gotten to, you know, a certain, you know, 3rd year or whatever, and just say, I can't do it anymore. So, like I was saying, it's not for the faint of heart. And also running a business, and also providing for your siblings. What's your relationship like with your siblings? Because now you're the oldest one, you know, paving the way.
I think my siblings. You see, it's always good to have one person who people can look up to. I mean, in that environment that we all grew up in, there's chances of all of you losing faith and just deciding, you know what, you throw in the towel and say, I cannot do this, I cannot move another step. There are chances like that. But when I made it, we call it breaking the system. When I broke the system, I think not just my siblings, even the kids from Kibera, we've seen a rise in kids who've now gone to the university, and then they're actually professionals. And because of just seeing 1 or 2 of us ahead there and saying, you know what, if my ghetto name is Last Day, if Last Day made it, I can also make it. Yes.
Okay. I've just noticed the pin that you're wearing there. Perhaps you can tell us a little bit more about that position that you hold.
I have been serving in the HIV tribunal as a vice chair from 2013. As a clinician, mostly we are more or less concerned about the curative aspect of it, but there are certain social aspects of healthcare that we never look up to. We look into, like for example, in this pandemic of HIV and AIDS, we have made so much milestones that right now we have just rolled into the country pre-exposure prophylaxis, where we are looking at high-risk population who we can prevent them from contracting HIV in an effort to be able to achieve our 1990 strategy as a nation. And for me, when I joined the tribunal, I said, you know what, for a patient, my patient, to be able to even take ARVs, there are certain factors that can be there. There should be able to be a balance. There should be a balance. Like for instance, stigma and discrimination. When you look at women, in terms of their inheritance rights, this has been abused over a long period of time, especially those who became widowed early because of HIV, and their children are prevented from going to school. So the tribunal was formed in an Act of Parliament of 2016, and purposely just to ensure that their rights are safeguarded, have access to education, access to employment. You cannot be denied employment based on your HIV status. So for me, that is my other life. a strong person who advocates for rights, not just in HIV, but health rights, patient-centered rights, because a patient has a right of information according to the Constitution. A patient has a right to decide whether whatever it is that you want to do is a procedure or treatment strategy, it's to their best needs, or they have a right to change their clinician. Because when you look at the outcomes of patients, if you put them in the central, which is now what you call patient-centered care, the outcomes are way better as compared to where you have a clinician-centered care, where I feel as Dr. Bosire, this is the best thing for my patient, or this decision I've made is the best for my patient. So again, holistically looking at patients and ensuring that their rights are not also infringed into, especially in diseases that attract stigma and discrimination, and HIV being one of them, is important for us in our fight for HIV, towards eradication of HIV and AIDS. Yes.
I mean, you being a success story out of Kibera, I'm sure there's a lot of young women growing up who now see you as, you know, a mentor or sort of an ideal of what they would like to achieve. So do you go back? Do you have any type of interaction with young people?
Yes, I have lots of interactions with young people. In fact, I have my own foundation. It's a non-for-profit. Named it after myself as well, because people really identify with the name. It's called the Dr. Bosire Foundation. And part of the things I strongly do, part of the activities I strongly do is in mentorship. And mentorship, I give mentorship in different ways. I have a shadowing activity where, for example, for you in media, and have a young girl who's really interested in becoming a news anchor or a presenter. What I do is that I let them shadow you, all on my cost in terms of transport, in terms of facilitating that, and I've never fundraised.
Wow.
This is how I pay my tithe. Actually, I don't pay tithe to church directly. I tell God, you know what, part of the money I will be able to give you, let me channel it back to your people who have needs. Because if you look at, I'm a Christian, if you look at the needs, if you look at what the Bible asks for us to take care of the widows and the orphans in the society and the poor, that's one of the ways you're able to take care of them. Aside from that is, I do lots of talks in high schools, and even at tertiary levels in the universities. I speak to women. I tell women, you're not defined by your sex, you're not defined by your gender, you're not defined by what the society says about you. I think you're defined by your ability to be able to look at all these obstacles and break even and break through.
Right.
And even if you see historically the women that have been given power, of course we have one or two who have failed us, but also there's also room for them to be able to change. And you see that women have done us very proud in this country. I look up to Wangari Maathai in Kenya, for example, a woman who's gone through so much struggle, a woman who's been battered. I mean, politically she's been abused, but she stood for her ground. She stood her ground on environmental practices. And look at how many years down the line, right now we see the implications in places where there was poor uptake of what she was advocating for, and now we are trying to reverse the harm that you've done to on Mother Kenya, I mean the environment in Kenya. So that's what you're trying to do. So again, is to also identify with the youth and see where their needs. I mean, the fingers of the hands are not the same. So some of us are very good in academics, push them towards the area of academics. Those of us who are good in it as entrepreneurs, who perhaps feel if I started a business then it would be able, then you give them soft skills. I mean, bookkeeping skills.
Right.
That's how you build them up. Yes.
You're a very busy woman. In terms of work-life balance, how do you sort of strike that that balance there? Because you're doing so much, and you know there's a lot required of you. How do you find time to just be?
Number one, my family is my priority. I have a son and a husband. That's number one. When I get home, I don't pick calls. I don't reply to texts. I'm not on social media. It's a principle that I have, that I always have to give 100% to my family, because I have to make my meals. I don't allow my house manager to make meals unless I'm sick or I'm not in the country.
Wow.
I actually cook most of the meals. 80% of the meals in my house, I cook them. I have to ensure my son is fine. We have to draw. We have to color. On the weekends, I have to balance between time I give to my family and also time I spend with the activities that I do, especially the mentorship programs. And part of the activities I do with my son, perhaps we can go swimming, we can, you know, do some of those things that make babies happy and also enhance that bond, that family bond. So those are the things that I ensure that I do much. And then again I'm also a student, a graduate student. I'll be graduating with 2 masters in an MSc in Global Health Policy.
Wow.
And an MBA in Healthcare Management from Strathmore Business School. So my day starts at 3 a.m.
Wow.
So I wake up, I read. I remember this morning I was in your studios by 6 a.m. I picked my books very fast and I was there reading my notes. And every opportunity I get, for me, I don't waste a minute. I just look at this bill. If I waste it, I will never get it back. So that's it. Of course, in terms of execution of my duties on the office, it's an 8 to 4 job, perfectly in the office, or if in the meetings and all that, I have to ensure also give to my my work. I never even think about it. If you think about it, my day just
keep going,
and I just keep going and going, and I realize I achieve a lot. But most of the times, I have a to-do list. I have my sticky notes that the important things that this day must not end before I am able to achieve them. I make sure I achieve them.
How did you get so disciplined? I mean, was this is this just part of your nature? Is it something you learned along the way? I mean, because I'm sure there's a lot of women watching who envy sort of the strictness of your lifestyle and that you're able to get everything done.
Yes, I think for one is they say character is built by repetition. I started this in medical school. My day started at 3 a.m. and at 11 or midnight, and it's a routine I have carried over the years. It's a routine that has become me. Oh, by the way, from 4 to 6, I'm in the gym. So again, it's something that I have made sure that I don't leave. Even when I'm on holiday, you realize that at 4 my alarm is up or I'm awake. Naturally, I have to force myself back to sleep because of that. But I think you start slowly. The question you have to ask yourself is, in your 24 hours, what do you want to achieve? That's the first question. Then you divide your 24 hours in the most important, you put priorities, and then the other less priorities things there, because there are things that you can spill over to the next day and start over. But the most important thing that if they are to be achieved, they need to be achieved on that particular day.
Right.
Yes.
Of course, as the CEO of the Kenya Medical Association, we, wouldn't be right if we didn't discuss the doctor strike that went on for quite a while there. I don't know if you have any thoughts or comments on what transpired.
I'm a policy expert. When you look at the documents and the argument from the union perspective about the health sector in this country, I mean, it's something that raises lots of questions. Kenya has just been identified as a middle-income country right now. Okay, middle-lower income country. I mean, we are from third world. We're making strides. When you look at GDP, our GDP has increased. When you look at the foreign investment that we are attracting in this country has gone up. When we look at, in terms of education, infiltration of education in even the marginalized communities, we can proudly say that we have made milestones. But the economy depends on a healthy population. The economy depends on the right number of clinicians. Now, for doctors, for instance, we have 5,000 in this country. Our medical school was opened up in 1978. What we've had is a huge brain drain. Year in, year out, you find our counterparts in South Africa, our counterparts in Namibia, and they're growing in other economies which are doing extremely well as compared to our own economy. So for how long will we run away? We fix what we have. So we said we're going to fix this. And part of fixing it is telling the government, you know what, can we increase the number of doctors? Can we increase the number of nurses, the number of clinical officers? Because our population is also expanding.
Growing,
46 million again is 5,000. That ratio is absurd. Number two, you're looking at needs for training. Right now, I mean, other countries are making billions out of medical tourism. At one particular point, Kenya was a destination for medical tourism in Eastern Central Africa. The patient came to Kenya.
Wow.
I don't know where we lost it, because that already is income to this country from that sector. Then we're also looking at, in terms of the rights of the doctors, I mean, disciplinary matters, matters of deployment, matters of employment in county, because also health has been devolved. So again, that also, there was a little bit of an imbalance in the devolvement. Right now we've seen the gaps, Parliament has seen the gaps, Senate has seen the gaps, even the governors have seen the gaps in devolvement of the government. And then is to ask ourselves, okay, can we stop? Can you do an audit the last 5 years? Where have we gone wrong? Can we improve, or do we take some powers away from the government, the county governments, and take them and deploy them back to the national government? What is it that we can be able to do to improve our health sector? Again, the other thing we're wondering is, I mean, if you look at 5 years before development of the health system, we had a very clear procurement system through the KEMS and the MEDS way of supply of commodities, which are drugs. But that has changed. Governments, which national county governments are procuring their own drugs. We are raising issues of quality. We are raising issues of the suppliers. Those are the questions that you're raising, because I have knowledge. I have the knowledge, and the knowledge requires that I should be able to prescribe the right medication to a patient. That's why you hear stories of, this doctor saw me, I was in this district hospital or this provincial hospital, I didn't get well. Then I was transferred to this private hospital. Why? The difference is in that's the quality of the drugs. Because here you might be given poor quality, here there are high quality drugs, the same molecule, only is the strength, and the patient will be able to recover on this side. So we are saying, can we have all that back? Can we take control of our health sector? The health sector in this country, in terms of it being an economic boost, has a gap of about 50 billion.
Wow.
That's potential for growth in health sector in this country. Can you imagine if we invested in our own public sector? I mean, this MRI, PET scans, we're sending patients outside this country. Why?
So do you see that happening?
I see that happening. I mean, the first step was to identify that, to even agree that that CBA had pertinent issues that needed to be able to propel some of these matters forward. I see that happening. I see now senators, I see even members of parliament asking content questions, asking questions that make sense. Okay, so this has been happening, why haven't we been told? This has been happening, why is it that I have to write a prescription and send a patient outside? And those are the corruption issues that are being raised, that doctors have opened up pharmacies outside, chemists outside, and sending patients to be able to buy. Some are true, some are false. We must be able to also to substantiate matters which are true. But then again is to say, let's kill that. Let's improve our pharmacies. Let's stock the right drugs. Let's stock quality drugs, and we're not going to see this. The revenue that is going to be raised in these facilities will actually then improve the facilities themselves. Right now, with the current devolved system, we no longer have a health management committees that used to have a technical team that we had initially. We even had a village representative, a village elder. We had a church elder in that board meeting who would be able to express the needs of the population in the village or in the communities, in the hospitals, such that even if the patients who are coming from the communities are being taken care of, then there are those ones who required more social support in terms of wavering. They are the ones who became our conduit for us to make those decisions. You see, if we cannot be able to go back to that system, then can we strengthen what we have now so that we have an equal and a just representation, so that everyone has a decision? Because we've run away from the times where the doctor is the final word.
Right.
We are no longer discussing that. We are giving you a chance as a patient, telling you these are the options available. This is my option. My advice would be this is option 1, option 2, option 3. I want that. Most probably you'll be given those options when you're in the private sector. But in the government sector, we should be able to empower patients so that they can also make best decisions for their health. Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Now, your success story, quite inspiring. I'm sure there's someone watching who might be in a situation that you were previously, growing up without privilege and without opportunities, and almost sort of giving up. What would you say to that person right now? Words that you would have heard at that point in time and would have encouraged you.
If you look at the mining process of diamonds, I love diamonds. If you look at the mining process of diamonds, I mean, it takes a lot of heat. Diamonds are made up of carbon molecules. It takes so much heat for it to just come out as sparkling. I mean, anytime you walked into a shop that sells jewelry, you never even think about that process. At the end of it all, it's the end. The means you might have such a turmoilful process, you might have such a heartbreaking time, you might have such a discouraging time starting, but focus on the end. When you focus on the prize, there's nothing that can break your heart or make you lose hope. I think you need to focus on the end.
I think it's important also to note that no situation is unredeemable.
Exactly.
Because when someone hears that you not only were living in the slum but were on drugs and selling drugs, and you think that's sort of my life sentence, but you were able to get beyond that. So I think it's very important to take note of that.
It is always second chance. I'm a huge believer in second chances in life. When you give people another platform, another opportunity to be able to make their lives, even our Kenyans who are in correctional facilities, we've seen some of them. I mean, the other day I was reading a success story of someone who graduated from the University of London, I think, with an online degree in law. I'm like, wow, this guy is representing himself. So again, it's to offer each other that second chance. It doesn't matter what has happened in the past. It doesn't matter what you've been involved in. Again, what really matters is, are you ready to do a 360? Are you ready to forfeit? We're calling the opportunity costs. Some of the good things that perhaps you got, for example, the highness and all that from drugs? Are you ready to forfeit that, to have a clear mind, to know what exactly you want in life? You should be able to do that. But you need to know that there's always a second chance for everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You said that you're not on social media once you get home, but for someone watching who might want to get in touch with you, how can they do that?
Facebook page is Stella Bosire, and I have a Twitter handle at @LastDayBosire. And yes, and I am one person who, since I became, in fact this was still by my medical superintendent when I was posted in Muranga, but once you become a doctor, you cease to become a private person, you become a public person, and your number is up there. So my Gmail account is stebosi51@gmail.com.
Okay.
So you can write to me and ask me any questions, and I can be able to.
Thank you so much for being here, Dr. Stella Bosire. I think you are the definition of what a power woman is.
Thank you.
So we appreciate you making time for us. Thank you so much for watching Power Breakfast this morning. Citizen Extra coming up next year on Citizen TV, but I think a little bit more music before that. Stay tuned.